Hello and welcome back. Let's talk about Dudleytown, one of the most cursed places in the world, plagued by insanity, people killing themselves, killing each other, dying from freak accidents and disappearing into the forest without trace. But why? Why is this happening? Or why did it happen? Let's get into it, shall we? I am decorating a trinket box while I talk about this, okay? So it all began with a man called Thomas Griffiths who bought the land from Yale College in 1738. Yes, we are that far back, okay? So, and then in 1747, he sold a portion of it to Gideon Dudley. And after this, wow, shit gets crazy. The Dudleys decided to, or the Dudley family, which were made up of five brothers, decided to call it Dudleytown. Why not? If I had a town, I'd call it Sarahtown. So there you go. I wouldn't actually. Sarah City sounds better. So his family was apparently cursed from the jump. So this goes way back to 1510, when Edmund Dudley, who was obviously their great whatever, he was beheaded for being in a coop, not a chicken coop, a coop as in, so the definition of this is a violent, unlawful seizure of power from the government against Henry VIII. A curse was put upon him and his family. I guess that even means unborn family members, huh? That's pretty evil, to be honest. I mean, what have they got to do with it? So Edmund's son, John Dudley, was executed while Lady Jane Grey reigned. It's not easy to say. And then Guildford, who was John's son, so Edmund's grandson, was actually arranged to marry Lady Jane Grey. But she was overthrown as queen after reigning for quite a short time. So the three of them were executed, because that makes sense, you know? So now we have Gideon and his brothers. And because the town was nestled between three rather large hills, it was often dark as early as midday, basically. So farming was basically a failure here because the soil was so shit that crops wouldn't grow, and they didn't have that as a source of income. So timber became their main source of income. However, they still struggled. This clearly wasn't bringing in enough money. So now we are in 1854, and there were only 26 families who lived there. This was actually the height of Dudleytown's population. Not good, really, is it? There's not many people. It's probably not very big, but that's not many people. But a lot of these families residing in Dudleytown were plagued with bad luck and weird happenings happening to them. So clearly the curse didn't just stay in the family. It plagued the whole town, which isn't really fair, if you ask me, but here we are. Let's begin going through who suffered and what happened with each resident. Well, not every resident, but yeah. Okay, you ready for this? Right, so you have a resident, Nathaniel Carter. He was away on a business trip. I don't know where he went, but he was away. And while he was away, his wife and his child were killed by Native Americans. So he came back, seeing this devastation. He took off with the rest of his family. I don't know who actually was left, but he left with them to New York, only to be murdered himself not long after. I don't know how long after, but just not long. So crazy. So Gideon's brother, Abel Dudley, had a friend called Gershon who fell while building a barn for a guy called William Tanner in 1972. Gershon died, And Tanner went insane, apparently, claiming that it was actually a strange animal who killed Gershon, not the fall. I don't know how he came to that conclusion. To be fair, most residents actually spoke about demons and strange creatures, ghosts, and all that kind of stuff. So for someone to say that isn't that mad, because obviously everyone else is seeing such things as well. But it probably was just the fall that killed him, let's be honest. If he fell from... Unless he got spooked by such creature. I'm not sure. But anyway, I digress. One resident was struck by lightning just outside her home in 1804, which I actually saw on another website that this wasn't an uncommon thing for people to just get struck by lightning. It didn't necessarily obviously mean anything, didn't mean a curse was afoot or anything like that, but is it a common thing to get struck by lightning? I don't know. Her husband then apparently went crazy, insane, I should say, after hearing this news. And I mean, I'm not surprised really. I'm sure you would feel some kind of way if you found out that your wife or your, whoever was struck by lightning just outside your house and died. I mean, you would be a bit upset, wouldn't you? And then there was a wife. This sounds like gossip. So then there was the wife, right, of a presidential nominee, Horace Greeley, or Geely, whatever. She committed suicide a week before the presidential election, which caused Greeley... I can't read my own writing. Greeley? Horace lost the presidential election because his wife committed suicide. I mean, can you actually get more selfish than that? Honestly. I'm obviously kidding. Jesus. So yeah, in the 20th century, i.e. the 1900s, the population was at an all-time low. One of the last remaining residents, called John Patrick Brophy, his wife, who wasn't named for some reason, we could have saved the time and just said his wife's name rather than his name, and his wife. Moving on, she actually died from TB, tuberculosis. This was actually what was called consumption back in the day, and I never knew what consumption was, but apparently it's tuberculosis, so the more you know. And then his 2 children, shortly after this happened, wandered off into the forest, never to return. So guess what? He then thought, that's a good idea actually, and he too wandered off into the forest, never to come back. And I saw on a website very briefly that this apparently wasn't true, but this is the problem with the internet, isn't it? I guess you just don't actually know what is true, because who actually does know what happened all those hundreds of years ago, like for definite, So anyway, not long after everyone disappeared and died and stuff in that family, their house was mysteriously burned down right to the ground. So yeah. So let's talk about the Dudleys. What happened to them in this situation? What were they doing while everyone was suffering from their curse? What did they have to say? Not a lot. So 3 of the Dudleys actually fled Dudleytown, and they, do you know what? They lived long, healthy lives apparently, and they died from natural causes. How did they get away with that? I don't know. But anyway, and then there was Abel Dudley, that one I said about earlier, whose friend fell. He also lived a long life, dying at the age of 90, but he stayed in Dudleytown. Apparently, though, he went insane towards the end of his life, losing his mind. But do you know what? I think that just translates to probably him having dementia, and they just didn't understand dementia back then. Because dementia is similar, isn't it? It's like you do lose your mind, so I think that's what that meant, if you ask me. But amazing that he died at 90 years old, considering it was a family curse. This guy is talked about a lot in some stories. Dr. William Clark, he was an oncologist, which a cancer doctor, pretty much. It's not pretty much, it is. And he was like the leading oncologist. He bought a place there in 1900, which he used as a holiday home for him and his wife, which is very lovely, isn't it? But he went on a business trip as well, just like the guy that I spoke of earlier in the story. So yeah, he went on a business trip, came back, and his wife was still alive, but she was apparently also insane, like so many other people. She claimed that there were strange creatures living in the forest, and she just couldn't deal with this anymore, so she killed herself. Which, you know, I mean, can I be, you know, can I say something? I feel like a lot of these people killed them. I say a lot, we haven't talked about many people, but a lot of people probably in this situation commit suicide because they're probably not listened to. She was probably just known as, you know, typical hysterical woman. What is she talking about? Oh my God, calm down. You're fine. You're crazy. And she, yeah. So I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that happens. So, you know, happens in this day and age. Shitting hell, I'm sequins everywhere. But anyway, he then remarried and stayed, spending summers there. I should say he continued to spend summers there until 1943, and he stopped because he died. So he died of natural causes as far as I'm aware, and probably lived a long life. I don't actually know how old he was, didn't look, sorry. But anyway, he co-founded the Dark Entry Forest Association, which preserves the forest. And he apparently loved it there. You know, he was enamoured, I don't know if that's the word, by the forest's beauty. He loved it. And the fact that he continued to summer there, even though people were going insane and hating it and dying and disappearing and stuff, and he had no problem. It's odd, isn't it? But some people, I suppose, just are unaffected by such things. But there you go. So he is actually the one, you know, that association actually owns the forest now. So Dudleytown is technically private property, hence why you are not permitted to visit there, I am sorry to say. In 1970, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are famous demonologists, they declared it demonically possessed, the place, Dudleytown. So basically, don't go there, you know? People are said to be overwhelmed with sadness while going in there. They are also said to have this feeling of being watched, you know, I always feel like somebody's, and they also have the feeling that they're being suffocated, which is quite scary to be honest. While people, of course, do still sneak in, they do take that little risky risk and they do go in there and to get their videos, to get their experience, whatever, don't do that, because not only should you not, you could be persecuted or prosecuted, whatever the word is, from going in there, because it is private property and you are trespassing by going in. So yeah, but also if that doesn't scare you enough, I mean, there are so many other possibilities. Like, will you be cursed? Will you be murdered? Will you be lured into the woods and never return? Will you be made to, you know, commit suicide? Will you, yeah, I mean, what will happen to you? It's exciting. Just don't do it, you know. If you live near there, just don't go in there, okay? Just don't go in. Never meet your heroes, as they say, because you might actually be really disappointed that nothing happens to you. That's also another thing, isn't it? But yeah, so anyway, that is the story of Dudleytown, and I wonder how long it will be shut to the public for. I wonder if it'll be forever and ever. Amen. Because I don't know, it's just very fascinating, isn't it? It's one of these things where like you just don't know if you can believe it until you really do experience it yourself. But of course, you can't experience it yourself legally. Don't do it. I'm not encouraging anybody to go in that forest because I just really think you shouldn't. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Check out my little trinket lid. Isn't it actually beautiful? So I will see you again next week. Stay safe, stay out of the forest, and stay unsuffocated and unwatched. And I will see you, or you will see me actually, next week. Take care. Bye.